Hey, everybody. Welcome to the EP Fan Zone podcast, a podcast that is by, for, and about Elvis fans. We welcome you to another episode, and this is going to be a fun one. My name is Kevin Booth, and I'm here with my daughter,
Abby,
my co-host, here again with us again this week. And this is an exciting week. It is finally Epic Week. Epic debuts tomorrow night, actually, in a lot of theaters. Sneak peeks are tomorrow night, and I got news this afternoon that several theaters in Baltimore have sold out.
Oh, thank God.
So
people were just waiting last minute.
Yeah, I think people are waiting last minute to get their tickets, and so we are super excited. We're going to see it Friday night, and at the IMAX. I've never been in an IMAX theater. This will be my first time.
This will be my second.
Going to an IMAX theater, so I'm super excited about that. And Abby, you excited?
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Awesome. I know it's going to be incredible. And let's see, anything happened this week in the Elvis world besides that little drop of a new film clip today?
I don't think so. Just
new.
that one small little clip that we got, but it's nothing really to talk about.
Oh, Baz did talk about an Elvis musical.
Yes, he talked about it like 4 years ago when the biopic came out, but he just confirmed it that they are working on a Broadway musical. And we've had Elvis musicals in the past, like All Shook Up and $1 Million Quartet, but this is going to be about his life. Kind of like, I think it's going to be a lot like the Michael Jackson one that they have on Broadway, but I hope it's not, because it's not the best. I've seen clips of it and it looks really cringy and weird. So I'm hoping that it's good.
Let's hope they do a good job.
I think it's going to be a Hamilton type thing.
Yeah, let's hope it's a good cast, that they cast somebody really good to play Elvis.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna get rolling. I'm excited about this podcast tonight, because tonight's guest is a really good close friend of mine, and we've known each other, I don't know how many years now. It's been a while, and he's my brother from another mother, I think, and we have so much in common. Not only Elvis, but we're both Civil War nuts, and just there's not too much we don't have in common. So I want y'all to say hello to my good friend Brian Payne. Brian, are you there?
I'm here, Kevin. How are you?
Man, it's good to have you on. We've been excited about this one. How long have we been friends now, Brian? It's been a while.
I would say probably a good 15 years or so.
At least.
Mm-hmm.
At least. And we met at one of my shows, right? You were part of my Civil War Honor Guard, I called it. And I'll explain that to people. We did the American Trilogy, and we came up with the idea to have 2 Confederate soldiers, at least 2. I think we had more. But basically, we had Civil War soldiers from the Confederacy and Civil War soldiers from the Union. Reenactors, of course, not actual Civil War soldiers, but reenactors. And Brian came in as part of that troop. He graciously donated his time, and it was so touching. We had the soldiers meet center stage, and during the flute part of the song, we had one Union soldier, one Confederate soldier step out, shake hands, and embrace. And Brian, it was not a dry eye every year, right?
Everybody was tearing up on that.
All the time. Every year, it never got old.
No.
And I hope that we're able to do that again sometime.
I hope so.
I want to do that again. So Brian is an Elvis fanatic, just like Abby and I are. And Brian is going to be our very first guest that actually saw Elvis in concert.
Yeah.
So we are super excited about talking about that tonight. So Brian, let's go back to your recollection. How did Elvis first enter your life? How did you discover Elvis?
Well, I guess it all started when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and my mom was a huge Elvis fan. And as in a lot of homes in America, my dad was not, because Elvis was Elvis.
That's right.
So he was like a country music lover. He loved old country music, Hank Williams and those guys. And I grew up listening to that. But after when I was about 7 or 8 years old, is when I really started to feel something special when I heard an Elvis song. And as you and Abby both know, there's something you can't really explain, but I just knew when I started listening to his music regularly and the types of music that he sings that he would be the one. So I have to give my mother a lot of credit for that because she really loved him and played a lot of his stuff. And where my dad would say, "Oh, not him again." You know, that's rude. So, but that's what got me started.
All right. Well, you already answered another question. Then we can jump ahead here. Was there a specific song that you remember that early on in your Elvis fandom that really grabbed you?
Absolutely. And you and Abby both can say the same thing about a song. For me, it was the 68 special.
Okay.
And when it came on, I sat down with my mom to watch. And, when it came on, it was his face going, "You're looking for trouble? You came to the right place." And that song, I would say, was the first song that really hooked me, to see him perform that and listen to the way he sang. It was just incredible.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I'm sure you remember If I Can Dream was probably
Oh
a big
yeah,
part of that.
absolutely. That was really, I think If I Can Dream was probably my favorite song of the whole thing, but I think Trouble was the one that grabbed me.
So your appreciation for Elvis kind of was immediate. It
Absolutely.
wasn't something that kind of grew steadily over time. It was kind of immediate when you first saw him hit that screen.
No, absolutely. And it's sort of like, I say, it's sort of like a lot of couples today where one person meets the other and they know right away that that's the one. Um, that's the feeling that I got when I started listening to him regularly. I mean, the different amount of songs that he was so good at singing and the sincerity that came through with him, it was like he was singing to you, not everyone, just to you. And
Absolutely, he had that amazing
yep,
ability, didn't
yep,
he?
absolutely. And that's what really grabbed me, and I really latched on after that 68 special.
So now, once you discovered him in '68, did you jump to the movies? Did you start watching his movies, or do you remember anything about the movies once you discovered him as an artist?
I did. I bought a lot of the movies. I have an extensive record collection, both in 45s and also in albums. I've got a huge amount of those. But the movies at first, we really didn't have any, until VCRs come along.
Right.
They weren't on TV that much. But when the VCR came out, some of the first movies that, of course, my mom and me bought was Elvis movies. And, you know, my overall favorite movie, I have to say, is King Creole, hands down.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
mine too.
Uh, I think it was some of his best acting, and I think the movie was really good. It had good co-stars. It was greatly directed by Michael Curtiz. I mean, it was a great movie. Um, and that got me hooked on movies. So a lot of the movies I have all the movies, but I really don't watch all of them because some of them are not really that good, except that he's in it. But
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I
He makes them
definitely have.
bearable.
Yes, absolutely. It makes it bearable. But I
If
would,
you
go ahead.
if you have to hear Old MacDonald How to Farm,
I know that it's such a waste of talent on some of that stuff was
but if
really
you got to
bad.
hear it, it's got to be Elvis singing it, right?
Yeah.
It's it. Who else? I wouldn't listen to anyone else singing that kind of stuff except him. So,
Yoga is as yoga does. Only
um,
Elvis can get me to listen to that.
oh my!
So-
Although there are some really good, as you know, there's some really good songs from his movies. I mean,
oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
some of
100%.
those things were
Especially
really.
from like Harem Scarum and GI Blues.
Oh yeah, Speedway.
Roustabout. Yeah, a lot of great movies. A lot of overlooked songs in the
The
movies.
whole King Creole soundtrack was amazing.
Oh
It
yeah,
was.
there wasn't a bad song in that movie.
All the songs were fantastic. Crawfish, man,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
just incredible music in that movie, and I think his acting there was really really good.
He really jumped into
Yes,
the void that James Dean left, and if they would have done it properly, Elvis could have went far and beyond that void after James Dean passed away.
absolutely. I think if he had the right roles, he would have been great. My another favorite that I really have, really only two stand out for me. My other favorite is Flaming Star
Mm.
That's a good
because
one.
his acting in that I think is the best. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
And
you can watch him through that movie, and it's like it's sort of like I call it the Jimmy Stewart syndrome. He's not acting,
yeah,
Mhm.
because that's the thing with Jimmy Stewart. He could be in a movie, and you didn't think he was in a movie. You think that's really him.
It's really him, yeah.
That's
And
the way I look
another
at it.
overlooked movie for me is Wild in the
Wild
Country.
in the Country, yes. Excellent movie.
100%.
Especially the part of the film where he started talking about his mother.
Oh my!
You could just see that he was not acting; he was visibly feeling every word of that.
Yeah,
You know?
and with King Creole, it's amazing the scenes that he had with the actor that played his dad. I mean, and some of those scenes was just outstanding acting.
Intense,
Yes.
really intense. Now, it wasn't long, of course, at 68 is kind of where you got started. After that, he goes to Vegas, and then he starts touring. So what was it like being an Elvis fan in that early to mid 70s period when he started touring? Yeah, I was just a baby, so I don't remember a whole lot about it, but
An infant baby.
an infant baby,
And then
as
an
Elvis would
infant
say.
baby.
An infant baby. So what was it like being an Elvis fan in that period where he's starting to come back and take the world by storming? Yeah.
Well, I have to say, in the late 60s, 68, 69, after he came back in Vegas, he became popular again because, the movies had pretty much wound down and he wasn't making really good music until he went back in the studio for the, American studio sessions. I mean, that's some of the best music of his whole career. So
Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
people really doubted his ability because he hadn't really been making good stuff. And a lot of people really, the people anyway that I was around, there wasn't a whole lot of Elvis fans that you could find previous to when he came back and started making good music again. But, I remember in high school, there was really three of us that were like crazy Elvis fans, absolutely crazy. But I'm sure there were others around, but it's just that I think he had to reprove himself. And I think the American studios did that. I think that
Oh, yeah.
album really proved he was still one of the best.
Now, at that point, were you collecting albums in
Oh
full
my goodness,
force?
yes.
Yeah.
I started my first job at 16, and I remember and I only worked like 12 hours a week after school, and I remember getting my first paycheck. And after I got my paycheck, I came home and I asked my mom. Of course, my dad probably wouldn't have taken me, so I asked my mom, I said, "Can you take me to the mall? I want to buy some records." And she said, "Well, sure." So I went to the mall and I bought Elvis Country and I bought, I can't remember the other one, but one was Elvis Country. And there was another album that I bought was not really one of the more popular albums. And when I went home, my dad said, "What do you got there?" And I said, "I bought some records." And he said, "Oh, Buck Owens or Charlie Pride." And
Not quite.
I said, "Almost." I said, "It's Elvis." He said, "Oh my God, boy, what a waste of money." and like I said, my very first paycheck, working my very first job, I bought two Elvis records. So
And so Elvis Country is probably the first album you remember
Elvis
purchasing.
Country was the first one again because my dad had he had country playing around the house all the time, and I love country music, the older country music anyway. I really love, and so I thought, well, Elvis Country, and I looked at some of the songs. Hey, look at the songs on there. That's great. So that's why I ended up buying that album. And I
Great album.
still have it, and still play it.
Those were great sessions.
Yeah.
He was still coming off the high from 69 and recording there at Studio B with all them guys and then the session. God, they were an amazing band and that 1970 session was incredible. A lot of great music.
Yeah. It's so hard to pick a favorite album, Kevin. I'm sure you and Abby have favorite albums, but I think you probably know.
Back in Memphis.
Okay, that's one of my favorites too. But my absolute favorite song to song whole album is "That's the Way It Is," man. I don't think it gets any better than Elvis on that album.
It's a great album. My goodness. Again, part of that 1970 barnstorming session that
His
he
vocals
did.
on that album were absolutely astounding with some of those songs. Astounding.
Absolutely. Incredible.
Yep.
So you're a collector, you're watching everything. Obviously, one we talk about all the time, I'm sure you remember. Of course, America didn't see it live. America saw it taped in April. But do you remember seeing Aloha from Hawaii, when it aired in America in April of 73?
I certainly do. In fact, my mom and I planned for that. And, we watched it that night. And it was absolutely fantastic. That was the top of his game, I think. I think that was, I think now, everybody has different favorite Elvis, times. I know Abby likes the 68, time period. I like
60 and 69.
I love the 69 time period when he was doing, That's the Way It Is. But 73, when he did, of course, Madison Square Garden, I know that's Kevin's favorite.
Yeah, 72 is my favorite touring year. Yeah, absolutely.
So, that particular concert was just unbelievable. And I mean, of course, it broke records that are still standing. They'll never be broken. So
you're like us. You watch it every year on the anniversary.
Every year on the anniversary. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, I think that concert was Elvis wanting the world to see him as an artist, not so much the sex symbol and and all of that. I really think he wanted to take that opportunity on the world stage to be seen as an artist.
I agree with you 100%. And you can tell he even mimics himself sometimes in some of those songs, like Fever. I mean, he had fun with that song because he was mimicking the 1950s Elvis.
Yes.
And it was funny to see him make fun of himself in that way because he knew the time had changed. And the songs that he was singing there was completely different from what he was singing in the 50s. So
absolutely. He picked some songs that really his artistry stood out.
Mm-hmm.
The show was just 1.5 billion people. I mean, watch that show. It's just incredible,
isn't it?
So Brian Payne got to see Elvis Presley in concert. So we're going to transition to you getting to see him in concert. You're our very first guest that saw the real thing. I never got to see Elvis live in concert. So really looking forward to transitioning to this part of the show. So what was the build up to that? You heard he's coming to town.
Mm-hmm.
How did you go and get how did all that come about?
Well, I originally planned on getting tickets when I heard that he was going to be, in Largo. I wanted to get some tickets for me and my mom because that would have been one of the highlights of her life, obviously, because she lived through the 50s and he was just so special to her. But I tried to get tickets and I couldn't. I waited too long, couldn't get them because they sold out quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And and she ended up getting sick around that time anyway, and she probably wouldn't have been able to go. So, but originally I looked at the tickets because I wanted to take her. But one of my friends in school, Jake, who was one of the really big Elvis fans, came up to me after class and said, "Hey, I think you might want to you might be interested in what I'm about to tell you." I said, "Okay." He said, "I have Elvis tickets." I said, "When and where?" He didn't even ask me, Kevin. He just I mean, that was my reaction because I said, do you really have Elvis tickets for Largo? He said, "Yes, I have 2 tickets." And he said, "I was going to take my sister, but she can't go. How would you like to go?" And I said, "Jake, I can marry you right now. That's how happy you've made me." A lifetime dream, obviously, to see him. So that's the way it actually started. And I'm telling you, man, going down to the days before the concert was nerve-wracking.
I can
Absolutely
imagine.
nerve-wracking because with any concert, there's always a chance that it's canceled or and of course with Elvis, there was a lot of that in the later years where he really didn't feel good and he couldn't perform sometimes. But I was just a nervous wreck leading up to July that year. I just thought, man, I hope he stays healthy. I hope everything works out okay. And the tickets, I don't know if you're aware of this or not. You probably are, but the tickets were really expensive. They were $10.
$10.
$10.
So expensive.
The tickets sold for $8, $10, and $12.50. That was the price.
You almost had the most expensive tickets. So where were your seats? How far were you from him?
We were towards center, and we were about, I'd say, 20 rows back.
Okay.
But if you've ever been, to that venue at Largo, that's a really nice place. That was a nice place to view concerts. So
yeah, I saw Garth Brooks twice there.
Yep. And it's really a nice, I mean, as long as people stay in their seats, you can see really good. So the seats were fantastic. And, when we got in there and I sat down, I thought, man, this is going to be great, because we're close enough. We don't need binoculars to see him. We can actually see him. We can watch the whole band. I mean, the location actually in the arena itself was fantastic. So I was really happy about that. But we were about, I'd say 20, maybe 18 or 20 rows back from the front.
Wow. Did you have any expectations going in?
Expectations? I was so excited. I don't know that I expected anything.
Right.
Leading up to the concert, when everybody's like milling around and they're buying popcorn and they're buying souvenirs and stuff, you're just sitting there thinking, can we get on with this? Come on, let's go.
Right.
And, finally, when the music started, his music started and he came out on the stage. To be honest with you, I'm familiar with the songs that he played, but I can't even tell you, I don't remember the first two songs that he sang. I don't remember listening to them. I know what they were. I mean, but I don't even, if someone asked me, how did he sing those songs? I'd have to say, I don't remember. I mean, that sounds kind of silly, but I mean, he was a person that when he walked on the stage, no one else was there. I mean, with all the animated lights and everything that goes on in concerts today, people have their attention all over the stage. That didn't happen with Elvis. With Elvis, when he walked on the stage, you saw Elvis. You didn't see the backup singers. You didn't see,
Right.
you didn't see anything else. You didn't see the security guys in the front. Your eyes were on him. And he could entertain a crowd that way. He didn't need all those, all that fireworks and loud music and stuff. You just watched
Right.
him. So that night I remember, and that was July 27th of '76, and they had two shows that day, and they had a 2:30 and an 8 o'clock, and we went to the 2:30 afternoon show. And he wore one of my favorite suits. He wore the blue Egyptian suit, the bird suit, Egyptian bird suit, and it was the blue one, not the white one. I think the blue one's a lot prettier. And only Elvis fans would notice this, but he had the original belt for that suit, which he didn't wear very often. Now, we would know that, but most people wouldn't know that. But he wore a nice suit. He looked okay. He obviously, we know he was sick at that time in his life.
Right.
But no matter how sick he was, the voice was absolutely spot on every single song. And that's what I think separated him, from a lot of the people. So I can't tell you what the first two songs sounded like because he did CC Rider, first.
Right. As always. Yeah.
As always. But I really can't tell you how good it sounded because, I mean, it was just unbelievable. I was even seeing the guy on stage. I mean, I was just awestruck, I guess is the best word. But it's something that anyone that's seen him will never forget. I can tell you that. I've known people that have seen him in concert and they say, that's something I'll never forget. And that's the best concert I've ever seen. And I have to say that too. I've seen other concerts, but nothing comes close to that. Nothing.
Oh, yeah. What song stands out most from that night?
Well, I was hoping he'd sing a couple that I really like. And one of the songs that I really liked that, I think he did really well was You Gave Me a Mountain. I always loved that song. I loved it when Marty Robbins did it. And I think Elvis's version was really, really good. So at that time, he was doing that song in his set. So I thought, man, I hope he sings that. And he did. So he sang that song, which was one of my favorites. He sang, as he was going through the band and they were playing their little solos. When it came to John Wilkerson, he always played Early Morning Rain. And that's one of my favorite Elvis songs. So even though I didn't get to hear the whole song, I got to hear, the first part of Early Morning Rain, which is always been one of my favorites, his version of my favorites. But the song that blew me away, and I think I mentioned this to Kevin before, the song that really blew me away in that concert was Hurt. And I'm being dead serious when I say this. After that song was over, the people in the rows that were beside us and in front of us were all crying.
Wow.
Oh, I would have been too.
Because he nailed it. I mean, like I said, regardless of the physical condition he was in and how he felt, his voice, you could not tell at all that he was not feeling good. He nailed every single note. And as you know, Kevin, that's not an easy song to sing.
No, sure. My goodness. It hurts, Brian.
It hurts when you sing it. And when he did Hurt, I think that was the pinnacle of the concert for me. but I enjoyed every single song. I just wish I could remember the first two from what they sounded like.
Now, I've heard people say that you haven't heard Elvis until you've heard him live, that he was actually more astounding live than even on his records. Did you get that?
Yes, absolutely. He's great on his records, but to hear his voice, all the inflection in his voice, how he could jump from octave to octave, and he was an amazing singer, just the pure artist singing. As you know, he was one of the very best. So, I mean, to hear him live and hear him, you know, change up some of those songs was just unbelievable. I mean, so yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I would say that those of us that had the privilege of seeing him live would probably all agree that he sounded much better live than he did on record. Now, the only difference I can say is the band sounds louder live, than they
Yeah,
do on records and CDs. So his voice is somewhat lower in the complete sound, but I mean his voice itself I think was really really good when he was singing live.
amazing. Now, it's kind of a tough question here, but difficult to answer maybe. But being a diehard like you were and seeing him, you know, that's the way it is. 68 comeback special, Aloha from Hawaii. When you saw him, did you have any concerns at all about his health?
I absolutely. In fact, I come out of there. I was talking to Jake. We were waiting to get out of the arena and get to the car, and we both really loved him. And as we were walking to the car, the first thing he said to me when we got out, where I could hear what he was saying, when we got out of the arena, the first thing he said to me is, "He doesn't look good at all." And Elvis always looked good to me, even at his worst. He looked better
Right.
than most people at their best.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I said, you know what, Kevin, he does. He looks like he's tired. Um, he looked, and he was still energetic. I mean, he was still moving around. He wasn't sitting on the stage. He wasn't doing any of that. But you could just tell he just seemed tired. Um, and you could tell physically that he didn't feel good, and he didn't look like we like to remember him back in the
Right.
69, 70 years. Um, so yeah, there was a little concern on both of our parts. We agreed coming out of there that I'm worried about him. I wish someone would help him. You know,
Wow. Yeah.
but unfortunately, no one did. At least not the extent he needed. And but yeah, we were concerned. I can say that.
So did you? So since you did get to see him live and you did get to see him at that period, um, when he was in the decline a little bit in '76, were you shocked? And where were you when you heard the news about Elvis's passing in 1977? And were you shocked since you did get to see him, um, at that time in his life when he was not well?
Absolutely. A lot of the people in the Elvis world will say, "Well, I wasn't surprised," but everybody was surprised. I mean,
Sure.
let's face it, this was Elvis. And I remember specifically in '77, I was a junior in high school, and we got out of school, and some of the kids that were standing around waiting for us to get on the bus said, "Yeah, I just heard Elvis died." And I said, "What?" And he said, "I just heard Elvis died." I said, "Are you serious? Is that a joke?" Or he said, "No, that's not a joke." He said, "I heard it on the radio." I said, "Okay." So I got home, got off the bus, walked in the house, and opened the front door, walked in and closed it. My dad was sitting in the living room watching TV, and they had the news on, and the news was saying, that Elvis had died, and they were going through all that stuff. And I walked to the kitchen, my mother was crying,
Mm,
and I think that's when it hit me. When I heard, you kind of think, "Oh, get out of here! That's not true. Someone's
Yeah.
starting nasty rumors and stuff." But when I walked in and it was on TV, and I don't remember the newscast he was watching. It wasn't Walter Cronkite. I don't remember what he was watching, but
Right.
they were talking about, showing scenes of the mansion and people already starting to gather and all that stuff. And my mom was crying. I said, "Mom, it's okay. He's better off now than he was, because I know he was in not good health." But it was I tell you, and you know this, I'm not telling either one of you this, it's like losing a family member. It really is. I mean, because this is a person that was, a hero in life, at least to me. And
Sure, me too.
Yeah, I mean, and whenever we feel bad, no matter what our mood was, there's an Elvis song for it.
Yeah. I
And you
think
can't.
that's kinda how I felt when Lisa died, like, I
Yep,
lost a family member.
exactly. And especially at her young age. I mean,
Mhm.
but I mean, Elvis, no matter what mood I was in, I could come home, go through the records, pick one out, put it on, play it, and I felt better
Right.
because he was
Yep,
singing to me.
absolutely. I remember
So,
Abby asking me that night, the night that Lisa died. She said, "Is this what it felt like when Elvis died?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely."
yeah, and I think you could probably multiply that by 5 or 10 when Elvis
Yeah.
died.
I mean, I was only
That's definitely a night I will never forget. I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing
Yep.
when I found out that Lisa died.
Yes. It was a big shock. I was completely
Mhm.
shocked about it. I didn't believe that at first either. I said, "Come on,
Me
these."
neither. I woke up to a text from my dad. I had slept in that day. It was like 12:30, I think, and I woke up to a text from my dad saying that she went into cardiac arrest.
Oh.
And I just I was on the phone. Me and my friend fell asleep on the phone together, and I unmuted and I screamed. I was like, "Kai,
Oh.
Kai, Kai, wake up!" It took me like 5 minutes to wake her up, and I was like, "Lisa Marie went into cardiac arrest."
It
And then
still
I was
sounds
on the phone
unbelievable,
later that night when she passed away.
even as you're saying that, it's still unbelievable. I mean,
Mhm.
just because of her age, I mean, it's unbelievable. But
yeah, I
I
was only 7 when Elvis died, and my grandfather had died when I was 4, so I knew what death meant.
what died meant, yeah,
Yeah, and so I, became a fan at 5, and my mom was offered tickets May 29th, 1977 when he came to Baltimore, but we lived in a rough neighborhood. My dad worked at night, and I'll never forget my mom saying, "He'll come back, again, and he'll come back around the area again, and we'll go see him." And so when he died, I was devastated, and I so never forget. I said, "Yeah." So when Lisa died, it was almost like reliving it.
it's still hard to cope with today. Of course, we're not the immediate family, so you know what they went through. But people that are diehard fans like we are, um, I liken it to a member of the family dying. But I think, other than my mom and dad, um, and I lost my brother, and of course, I throw this into my 2 dogs, which I was really, really close to. You know, the only other person outside of the people that or the animals that I just named was Elvis that I cried. That's the only one. Um,
Yeah.
and it wasn't just 10-minute cry. I mean, it was all evening. It was so upsetting, and to this day it still is. I mean, it's one of the worst travesties in history that he died so young and
Mhm.
was so talented and could have done so much more.
Yeah, I've said before, with as much as Elvis um, accomplished, there's so many what ifs.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just you wouldn't think with a guy as accomplished as he was, who did so much, that what if could even be a thing. But there's so much that he didn't do, and so much that he didn't get to do.
Yeah, he wanted to tour Europe so bad. Um, was really a shame. But I mean, just think what might have happened if he had gotten that part in A Star Is Born.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
that was one of the uh, big things that really I think could have made a big difference in his life because he really wanted to be a serious actor.
It would
And
have challenged him
yeah,
to
yeah,
face a lot of his demons too, being the content of the movie. Yeah.
yes. And wouldn't you love to see him in Glenn Campbell's part in True Grit with John
Oh
Wayne?
my
If God
goodness,
would
wouldn't
say
that have been amazing?
Elvis and John Wayne in the same movie. Oh my goodness
Was he
gracious.
supposed to be in that?
Yeah, he
I
was.
never heard
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, he was offered that part.
I
Yeah,
never heard
John
about
John
that.
Wayne
Colonel, of
wanted him.
course.
Yeah, John Wayne wanted him in that part, but of course the colonel said, Elvis has to be, listed first, and John Wayne
Yeah,
said, I
What
don't
year
think
was that?
that was 69.
Oh.
and Elvis looked amazing. What a great
He looked
time
the
that would have
best
been.
in 69.
Oh,
Yeah.
it would have been Charo all over again.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
But
That's
but
just
no, but you're not going to second bill the Duke. You know, I mean,
no, unfortunately not. Barbra Streisand, yes, but the Duke,
yeah,
no.
Barbra Streisand, yes, but John Wayne, definitely not. So that night, seeing him live, obviously, when he passed away, that night, seeing him must have been magnified.
It was.
You know, you must have been saying, "Thank God that I got to see him." You know,
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned the concert in Baltimore in '77, but if my memory serves me right, I think he had some issues at that concert. Correct
he
me if
did.
I'm
He did.
wrong,
He had
where
to
he
leave the
had some
stage for a
hecklers
half
there.
hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And I believe he, at one point, he even walked off the stage and
Yeah.
then
he
came back
did.
and apologized because people were heckling him. So I'm glad I didn't go to that concert. I'm glad I went to the '76 concert instead.
Because he almost, if I'm remembering right, he almost died on the way there
Yes, he was very
on the
ill.
plane.
Mm-hmm. He
Yeah.
was very ill.
I remember
So,
my friend Billy Poor, who knew Elvis, got to hang with him quite a bit. One of a handful of fans that got to go on the inside, but he told me that night, he said in '77 was about the only time he couldn't get to him because they shielded Elvis and didn't let, there were no more after parties. They got him right out into the limo and he was on the plane and gone. There wasn't no, letting anybody get to him because he was in such bad shape. But he said when he walked out that night in May of '77, he said he actually kicked the wall to the Civic Center and said he was so angry because he saw how sick he was.
yeah.
And he actually walked out that night saying they're going to kill him.
Yeah.
He needs help. It's just so sad. So
It's a sad thing. And, I think if you talk to every one of those people that was in that audience in '77 when he was in Baltimore, none of them would regret buying a ticket.
no,
No.
But
no, definitely not.
it was not the best. It wasn't the best showing for him because he was so sick, and sometimes people can be nasty.
They really
Oh, yeah.
can. They
So
really can.
I'm so lucky that I got to go in '76 to see him when, his voice was spectacular. And even though he didn't look like I'd like him to look, he still looked good to me. So,
And he had some high moments in
oh, yeah.
'76. He really did. He started
Oh,
off, with the New Year's Eve show. And then
right.
even in '77, he found it a little bit again in January. That New Year's Eve show in Pittsburgh, '76 into '77, he actually looked pretty decent and put on a really energetic show. So he had some moments where he would find it again, but unfortunately,
But the voice was always there, Kevin. I'm
it
telling you.
was never faltered.
His voice in '76 sounded just like it did in '71. I mean, there wasn't much difference. I mean, the only different voice that he had was in '55, '56, and '57. Otherwise, his voice was still the same. It was always, in my opinion, it was always perfect.
Powerful. I mean,
Yep.
and in '77, getting around the way he looked, whenever I watched the TV special from '77, some of the most amazing vocal work you'll ever hear him do is in that
Ooh.
special.
Oh, yes. How Great Thou Art. Um,
And You Gave Me a Mountain was
You Gave Me a
just
Mountain.
superb.
That was the best version of that song. And I think the CC Rider version was the best that he did in that concert as well.
It really was. He put a lot into it.
Yeah. So, and My Way, of course,
Oh, my favorite version of My Way. But man, you could tell in How Great Thou Art that there was no audience there. That was him and God.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was singing straight to God in that version. I love watching it. It's just incredible. So we'll finish on a high note, Brian. Are you looking forward to Epic?
Oh my goodness, yes. I wish I could go to the IMAX theater, but I can't get out of work enough to do it. But we will go shortly after that.
Yes, we will. We'll go see it the following week. We'll probably go see it multiple times.
And I do want to take a minute just to tell you, Kevin, that I am really appreciative of everything that you've done for we Elvis fans that love what you do. We love your singing and we love your tributes. Every time you're on the stage, we know it's coming from the heart, and you can't say that about a lot of people, but with you, we can. So, on behalf of all of us that are fans, not only of Elvis, but of Kevin Booth, I want to thank you for everything that you've done and continue to do.
Well, thank you, Brian. And you've always been such a support and an encouragement. And there's a lot of things going on through my mind right now that I'm trying to figure out what to do musically, and so I have to keep you informed. Maybe we could talk off the air about that.
Yep, absolutely.
I've got some things going through my mind, but so I want to ask you this question: how does it feel, as a diehard Elvis fan, seeing the young Elvis fans like Abby and her friends today that are carrying that torch? And do you agree with us that the Elvis movie, the Baz Luhrmann's Elvis movie, is largely has a huge responsibility of making that happen?
In answer to your second question, absolutely. I think Baz's movie is the one that introduced him to the younger generation. I'm so thankful for people like Abby and other young people that can recognize a vocalist when they hear it. And a lot of the people that are singing today in bands are not vocalists by any means.
No, definitely not.
But, people like Abby realized that he was a vocalist and he was very talented. And I think Baz has a big part to play in that. I kind of liken that to the movie Gettysburg, bringing back the Civil War to mainstream.
Yes.
Because, I was a reenactor before that, and there wasn't a lot of attention being paid. But as soon as that movie came out, my goodness gracious, it went crazy. And we were doing stuff for people everywhere. So definitely think that the Baz movie did that. And I'm really thankful for people like Abby and other young people who realize that, this guy was once in a lifetime, and he deserves all the accolades that he can get from anybody. Based on what he did and what he continues to do, 50 years after he left us.
Yeah, Abby asked me one time, she said, how could I possibly miss someone that died decades before I was even born? And it was one of the most astounding questions she's ever asked me. And that's the power of Elvis.
It is. It's something that you don't find. I mean, there's been a lot of singers out there, guys. You know that. I mean, Sinatra was okay. Dean Martin was okay. Roy Orbison was fantastic. But you don't see the same kind of fandom for those people that you see for Elvis. He's completely different. You can't compare him to anyone.
Right.
I mean, he's just got a following that's steady and solid, and fans, are all ages now, thanks to people like Abby who realize that he was a spectacular singer. So I'm glad to see that.
Me too. It's super exciting, and I think the future is in good hands as we go down the road.
Yes.
They're going to carry that torch for Elvis, and I don't think there's any end in sight. And I'm looking forward to 2027 when we all go down to Graceland for the 50th anniversary, and what they're going to have planned for that year.
Well, let me tell you, that's something that I'm looking forward to greatly. And I think that's going to be another one of those going with you and Abby. There's no one else to rather go with. And I think that's going to be one of the highlights of our life, at least.
Oh, yeah.
The end of our life, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. I told Abby, I said, I don't want to sound morbid or anything, but for us Elvis diehard, same generation fans, this will be the last big celebration, the 50th anniversary, because I don't know, the 75th and all of that, I don't know about all that, so, but
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's right. You never know.
I've always wanted to go to Elvis Week, so I'm glad that my first is going to be the 50th anniversary, because I think it's going to be the biggest.
Yeah,
it'll be the biggest of all time
until the 100th 50 years from now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's definitely the one to go to. I've been to many of them, and they're all memorable in different ways. But I mean, that one's going to be probably the biggest thing in quite a while.
It's going to be epic. That's for sure.
It's going to be epic.
It really is. Well, Brian, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your memories of our man Elvis and your memories of that concert that night. I could almost see it in my mind's eye as you were talking about it. And so thanks a lot for joining us tonight. And we got to get together soon for some Denny's dinner or something, man.
We'll definitely do that. And I really appreciate you and Abby having me on. It's a thrill for me to be able to talk to you guys anytime in any venue. So I really appreciate it.
But we'll go out and see Epic together and do some dinner, and we'll be seeing each other shortly. So thanks again. My name is Kevin. This is Abby, my friend Brian Payne joining us tonight. Thanks a lot for joining us for the EP Fan Zone the podcast that's by, for, and about Elvis fans. And we will see you next time. God bless. Good night, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.